My submarine activity was to create a Venn diagram based on the book. Venn diagrams are very difficult to draw on chart paper, so a T-chart might be a little easier to fill in and for the kids to be able to see. And I chose the lot that they were working on at the beginning of the story and the lot at the end. Another one would be really good if you're talking about characters to do Mr. Hammer, Old Man Hammer, at the beginning and at the end. When you do this, I changed colors each time so that the kids should see which parts go with which. So they described the lot at the beginning as looking like a missing tooth and a smile because they had all the buildings lined up and then there was a big spot and then more buildings. At the end, it was a place to sit in the sun and eat. It was a place to enjoy your time. As I got farther and farther, and this is kind of how your kids will go, we start out with pretty specific from the book things and what it looked like. It was junky and dirty and then it was clean and beautiful, but then try to get them thinking about other differences besides just real concrete ones. Like that space at the beginning was hated by the neighborhood, but by the end it was treasured. And using the vocabulary instead of didn't like it and liked it, hated and treasured. Thinking of some better, more descriptive words when you're describing them. At the beginning, the place used to be a building. There used to be a building there where people lived, and so it was full of sad memories that they had taken that building away, somewhere where the Old Man Hammer had grown up. But by the end, it was a place for him to go and make new, happy memories. At the beginning, it was a dream, one little girl's dream, but at the end, it was a reality for the whole neighborhood.
Okay, my submarine was a recipe, and this is good especially for finding the theme of a book. So I did my short little retell and put in different symbols when I inferred. For recipe, they came up with the symbol 1 cup, just because they thought that would help them remember what a recipe was. And this recipe was for making change happen. So I wrote 1 cup of never give up, 2 tablespoons of love, 1/2 cup of empathy and compassion, a pinch of thinking positive, a 1/4 cup of getting others to pitch in, a teaspoon of caring more about others than yourself. And then I wrote, blend all of these ingredients together slowly and gently to get positive changes bigger than you could have ever imagined or gotten by yourself. And I'm going to read the response on this one because I think this top part could have been better. So I wrote, I like your retell. It gave enough details to help me understand, but I wish you wouldn't have spoiled the ending. So I gave you a 3.5. And then good job on your submarine. I wish you would have shown the ingredients connected to the book. And rather than just a short little response, they actually showed them what they would have liked to see to make it better. Submarine is a prequel, so after I read this book, I thought that there could have been a book that could have happened before this book happened. So our sequel symbol was a number 2 with the book, and we chose a number 1 for a prequel if it should come before the actual book that we read. So I wrote, if I could write a prequel to this story, it would be about Old Man Hammer's past, so that we could really see why and how Marcy's patience and love changed his life. And I put infer there because they didn't say that it changed his life, but I kind of felt like it did. I might call it tough as nails to sweet grapes, which are 2 kind of quotes from the text. The story would show how he was raised by his grandmother, who died when he was 18. When she died, he had nothing and was very lonely and sad. He became an introvert, which means he stayed to himself, and struggled paying the bills. His building became unsafe to live in, and the city wouldn't help to fix it, so he had to move out. He lost the memories of the only family member he had ever had, and this made him bitter. He grew old alone until he met a little girl in his neighborhood named Marcy, and I thought that would be a good ending to the prequel, and then it could lead into this story.
My submarine activity is a Dear Abby letter. So what I did was looked at one of the characters in the book that most interested me, and it was Old Man Hammer. And so I wrote a letter to Dear Abby from Old Man Hammer, and it's from his point of view, talking about how he felt when he lost that building and kind of giving some background into what I think may have made him so bitter. It says, "Well, it's gone, and I can't believe the home I shared with my beloved wife is gone. Since my Martha passed away, I moved across the street to a ground floor apartment. The climb is easier on my arthritis. Soon after Martha passed, the city boarded the place up. They could have fixed it, but it seems no one had the time or money to put into it. What a waste. Last winter, the city came with a crane and a wrecking ball. They tore the building down. I can hardly stand to see the rubble and trash that is collected where I was once so happy. What should I do? Give me a plan." And we know in the story that the little girl sees the place and they're digging some dirt to fill coffee cans to make a garden. And in that scene, Old Man Hammer comes along and gives just a little push, kind of a suggestion of an idea as far as turning that into a garden. And so I thought, well, maybe this is where the idea came from, that he wrote this letter to Dear Abby, and then his advice from her said, "Sounds to me like something good could come from all of this. Look around. How could that spot be used to make everyone happy?" And so I decided that that's what made Old Man Hammer be in that scene in the book and suggest that something good could come from that. Something that the students are interested in these days is technology, and so this submarine activity is actually like a Twitter feed. And so what I did was I took the main characters in the story and just had each one of them tweet with some hashtags that would kind of give an idea as to what was important to them in the story or how they were important. So Marcy, the little girl, just tweeted "from sour grapes to a sweetheart," hashtag Old Man Hammer, hashtag I've got a secret, because she knows who planted the seeds in the back of the garden. Old Man Hammer tweeted, "I found a way to help my neighbors," hashtag Hope Wife's Flowers Grow, because I inferred that maybe those seeds were like the last that he had from when his wife was alive and she gardened maybe. Hashtag Love Marcy Girl, hashtag I've got a secret, because he's the one who planted those. Miss Rose tweeted, "Good things grow in places other than coffee cans," because that's where they were growing before they made their community garden. Hashtag growing things is good for your heart, which refers to the change in Old Man Hammer. And then Mama tweeted, "Losing that building made the neighborhood safer for all," hashtag glad it's gone, hashtag safe to play, hashtag looks much better, because Mama's the one who had the party in the story where everyone stood at the windows and watched the building being torn down. So I think Mama was more interested in a safe place to play and a beautiful neighborhood.
This submarine is a rule book. We drew a little symbol with a book and it just says rules on it. So I wrote a rule book for Old Man Hammer. I said, tell people that you are sad and what you're sad about so they can help. Don't be mean and grumpy to people who are trying to help you. Build some new relationships instead of just being sad over what you have lost. Pitch in and help others. That always makes a person feel better. Have the courage to try something new. My response to this that I got was, I would give you 2 4s because your retell had enough details without spoiling the ending, and your thinking was a submarine with deep thinking and great advice. I can tell you put yourself in Old Man Hammer's shoes. And then from reading my kids' readers' response notebooks, just so you know, these aren't the only options. I see them trying new stuff all the time. So over on this chart over here are some things that I got directly from their readers' response notebooks. So in one reader's response that I read this week, there was a news story and it said, breaking news, blah, 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 and it had the characters in the story with something exciting happening. And then another one was a YouTube clip, and I had the student actually ask me if he could use the iPad and make an iMovie that we could pretend would be a YouTube clip from one of the characters in the movie. So keep adding to this list. This isn't the end-all, be-all.
Did a Facebook profile for the City Green Neighborhood Garden, and it's kind of like an organization page or something you might see on Facebook. Of course, we started with the retail, and this is the, I believe this is called the background picture, something. Anyway, there's 2 pictures that they use on Facebook. One of them's big, and then one of them's a little small profile picture. So the big one is a picture of the neighborhood with the garden right here. And then this is Marcy's picture, since she's kind of like the administrator or caretaker of the garden, since it was her idea. So we put her on there. I called her Marcy Green because I wasn't sure what her last name was. But she's the administrator and caretaker. And then just because it seemed like he really caught on to the idea at the end, the assistant caretaker I put would be Old Man Hammers, because it seems like something that's really important to him now. Just as a Facebook page would have, you have to have a status button and a photo button and a check-in button. And then I have some just posts here from different people. Marcy posted on November 19th, 2012, that if you haven't covered your plants yet, you need to do that before it gets too cold. And then Old Man Hammers had posted on November 2nd that he wanted anyone that could to join him for lunch at the garden on Tuesday at 11. Before that, Marcy had, on the same day, had also posted that they were going to have on November 20th a Decorate the Garden for Christmas party, and that anyone could come and donate their time, and they could put up lights and do things like that. So these are just some things that I think the kids would think of that maybe they would be doing at the garden, and kind of a fun format for them to put using those Facebook posts with the characters and things like that. Submarine responsive letter to a character, and this is one that I've had my kids do a few times. Like, that's the one I required them to. What I wanted to do is write a letter to dear Old Man Hammer, because he seemed to be one of those characters that were, he definitely changed throughout the series of the book. At first I started out by asking him about why he had that bad attitude at the beginning, and then I kind of stated my idea as to why I thought maybe that was his attitude, that he was sad thinking about the place that he used to live and how it was torn down, and he had so many memories that were no longer there. And then I made a connection from when my childhood home, years later, had been torn down, and talking about how every time I drive by there, I think about the things that I did in that house and everything, and then I try to remember the happy times there. And then I told him that if he would just give the garden a chance, that I really thought that he could make some new memories and enjoy the garden too, and make new memories there. So, and then responded, talked about the fact that I made a connection, and asked a extended thinking question: why do you think Old Man Hammers planted the sunflowers?
This anchor chart of City Green is for creating an advertisement of the book. And then on the thinking part for the advertisement, I put, due to all the participation of the neighborhood people, the garden's beauty was very popular. So other people from neighborhoods came to visit. There were ads in the local newspaper with pictures, and then they were invited to the Today Show. So Marcy and Old Man Hammer flew to New York City to do a commercial, and the slogan read, "Come grow with us." The students could either write a response about an advertisement, they could draw a picture and put a caption under it, that's another different way, and then it would be the response of the audience.